Welcome, everybody, to the show. Today, we are talking about standards-based grading. Is it coming to LAUSD? Let's see. Welcome, Jacob.
Hey, good to be here, buddy.
Well, we talked about standards-based grading a couple of weeks ago, and it was something that I had wanted to share since last season because it is so profound how it changed the way I taught. Notice I didn't say grade. That's obvious. It changed the way I graded, but it also changed the way I taught because I don't view things quite the same. I don't look at students quite the same since I've taught it, since I've changed the grading system. And so we discussed it. It was pretty fruitful. I know you changed a little bit of how you graded, but recently, this week, in fact, this past week, our friend Sonia Tovar sent us an article in our Facebook group, and it's about, well, let me give you a sentence from this article. The title, by the way, is this: Faced with soaring D's and F's, schools are ditching the old way of grading. And it gives a case study of a teacher at Alhambra High School and how he changed. He changed his grading system, and he didn't use the article doesn't use the words standard-based grading, but that's what it effectively is. And it mentions in the article that LAUSD and San Diego Unified, the state's two largest school districts, with some 660,000 students combined, have recently directed teachers to base academic grades on whether students have learned what was expected of them during a course and not penalize them for behavior, work habits, or missed deadlines. The policies encourage teachers to give students opportunity to revise essays or retake tests to show that they have met learning goals rather than enforcing hard deadlines. What is your take on that?
Well, yeah, I this last Monday, Ruben, at least my school, and I know other schools did it maybe a week before we did. So LAUSD has been doing this for the last couple of weeks, talking to different schools, or at least the administration teams at each school they've been addressing their staff, and so our administrators addressed us last Monday, and I had two pieces to this. Okay, the first piece is they provided some articles regarding standard based, although they call it master grading and learning, right? And so pretty much the same thing as standard based grading. And basically they were promoting everything that we talked about regarding no more zeros, accepting late work. And so I think the teachers, the first time the teachers
to accept late work.
To accept late work.
Right.
And to get students a second try or third try to take makeup tests and things like that. And so this is the first time, to be fair, it was the first time where a lot of teachers got this. So when you and I talked about it, we've been talking about it for a while. And so I was already ready for it. But to be fair, my colleagues weren't. And I think they were just kind of like, whoa, we have to do this right away? What's going on? So I think in the next weeks or so, they're going to continue to have this dialogue regarding why we're doing this and so forth. I will say this, I was a little disappointed that they threw in race as an article for us to say, it's because of the racism that's embedded in education and into grading. And I'm like, well, they could have done without that, because that just kind of, it was a different topic, different subject, and it wasn't really plausible. It wasn't really needed. And so, but the whole idea of no more zeros, I know there are a few who were just really just like a deer in the headlights. Like, what does that mean? And what is that going to look like? And so I felt a little bit like, I felt like, when you felt like I cheated a little bit. Like I knew this was kind of coming down because you and I had talked about it. And I knew our district was going to have to deal with it eventually. And I didn't think it was going to be this year, Ruben. I thought maybe in the next year or the following year. But boy, it's like we kind of like previewed LAUSD's history like a couple weeks ago, which was pretty cool.
I have one comment, maybe a couple comments on.
Sure.
I think when you're saying race, I think they're couching the language as if it's they're addressed as if they're addressing equity, that things are not equitable. And so
Part of it.
I
Part of it.
think that
Not all of it.
well, things are not, that's, yeah, I know. But
Mhm.
I'm just addressing what you brought up.
Sure.
I'm mentioning what you brought up, is that they're addressing the inequity in terms of race and maybe income compared to other students who might get tutors, who might have a different, you know,
Mm-hmm.
income. Parents can sit with them and work with them, or tutors can. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some kind of inequity imbued in the system that they're addressing through standards-based grading,
I think it's
or
also they were
what they're terming mastery learning,
right.
or how they term it.
I think
But
they're also referring.
let me just finish my thought. Is that
Yeah.
it, um, I think the reason they're doing, I think I agree with you. It's probably a disservice to, because some parents are going to interpret that as, oh, this is about lowering the standards
Mm.
to help poor Latinos or Blacks. We need to raise the standard. But nothing could be further from the truth. It is raising the standard. It's only looking at the standard and not other things that are useless. But here's the good part. Here's the smart part. This is the way they termed it. The way what you don't like about it is what is going to bring buy-in from the teachers. Ironically, this is going to do it. because
You
when
think
they
so?
yeah, because when they hear the inequity part and the race that you don't like, they're going to be quicker to buy in, because who wants to fight that?
Yeah.
Who wants to fight
I think they were looking though more
equity?
just to be clear though, they were looking more historically when grading was even being put on the table like 100 years ago. That's what they're looking at, not so much recent issues regarding race. We're talking about it's embedded way back in the day when
That
education was put on the table.
that,
So
that doesn't negate what I'm saying, though, is that
no, I'm not saying it's negates. I'm saying
this
there's
is
another piece to it.
this is what's persuading the teachers. That's my point.
I don't think
Is
it is
that
though. I disagree. I don't think it's persuading them at all. The ones
I
I've
think
talked to, it was upsetting to them.
okay, but
Yeah.
I think it's going to go for. I'm not. I don't agree with the way they've couched the language, because
Yeah.
this type of. So I'm in agreement with you, because I think
Sure.
that this kind of grading helps everybody, every
No,
student,
no, I'm with you on
race,
that for
but
sure.
I think that's the reason they're doing that. But and
Yeah,
you're saying it's not. You're saying it's not going to work, but
no, I'm saying yeah. I don't think the teachers are buying it, and I don't think they had to do that. They didn't have to bring that in. They didn't have to bring in race. They just should have brought it. Hey, we see this is going to help students. We see
okay.
this. We've tested it in other districts. Alhambra's testing it, like you mentioned, and it's been being tested for years. And saying, let's just look at the statistics. Let's not go into race. And we've talked about this before. It just isn't. Nobody wants to hear about that right now. No one wants to talk about that because you're not going to get all buy-in. And the ones you do get buy-in, they're even starting. And the ones I've talked to, I'm not sure if they should went there. So
yeah.
that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, have you talked to any teachers who are buying into it?
Yes, newer teachers, younger teachers.
Okay,
that's the only ones who I've talked.
I will say that I have at my school, we're a really high performing school, and we make national headlines. But the one thing, and it seems like we're pretty innovative at our school, but
sure.
The one thing I do not get is that a lot of teachers have not bought into this. It just
at your school?
At my school, I mean, obviously, if I compared my school to your school, more teachers have, but sure. I would think it would be 80%, 90%. But I would say it's probably 30%, which is probably very high, right, compared to most schools. Yeah. But a lot of teachers, they use this language of turning in stuff. He doesn't turn in enough stuff. So I've heard teachers talk that way. And I'm like, who cares what he turns in? Yeah. Who cares what she turns in? How is she performing? Yeah. That's why, the language I use when there's a document where I put their grades in, I really hit I put the standard in, not the work. He turned in work. No, not the homework assignment, but we just did a video on teaching the scary story. And I talked about the different elements that are going into foreshadowing. I didn't cover irony, but foreshadowing, conflict, that goes in the grade book, because this is what the student can do. So, they know.
Right, right, and that makes sense. And you're right, though. There are teachers who are still. And I'm surprised at your school that they haven't bought in as much as I thought it was made a little bit more, but they will, I think, in time. And then I think in my district they will in time. It's not going to happen in a year or two, though. I don't think, because I think they blew it on how they introduced it to us, like I already mentioned. But B, I think they should have did what Alhambra did. Alhambra, I think, is a step ahead. They did it. They said, "Hey, we're going to take 50 teachers who want to do this, right? And we're going to and then let's see how they do. Let's look at the results. Let's track it. They're always into data, right? Let's look at the data, and that speaks for itself.
It,
And then you show me the data, I'm gonna go, oh, there's something there.
I'm going to say this because I maybe I gave a rosy picture during the video. It is scary.
Mm,
It is scary in some ways, because if you have a classroom full of students
mhm,
and you have a standard, it could be conceivably 90% of them could pass it midway through the week. Then what?
mm, mm,
Our tendency is to keep giving busy work, but you have to get creative in how to fill in the rest of your week.
mm.
If it comes to that, if it comes to, oh my gosh, they pass the standard, or they don't need this,
Yeah,
well then, and I think we talked about it in another video, then you look at that particular student and their individual need. They don't need that standard, they need something else. You have to assess them, you have to get their work. And I think that's scary. I
good point.
think to not look at a classroom as one big
Hmm.
just this body of people where I'm going to give this work to, and say, what do my students need? How do I
Sure,
get them there?
sure. And I think that teachers have a difficult time moving on from unit to unit or standard to standard. And I think when you're sharing that, if teachers finish the standard, and not the teachers, but the students master it, 90% of the class master it, it's you just gotta, I think it's a skill you have to learn as a teacher. Move on, get to the next one. And I think
Move
for
on.
some of us, we just can't do it for some reason. We just have to do it. And I say that because I struggle with that sometimes. Like, oh, I could continue with this unit because I have so much stuff. But wait a minute, they already mastered it. Why am I still here? No, keep going. So I like that, Ruben. You're right.
Well, tell us what you think, everybody. We hope that we see a change. It's unpleasant at times, it's uncomfortable, but yeah, I think it's for everybody. uh, Leave a like, leave a comment, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.